Let's give it a second. All right.
It is 7:02. I will call this meeting of the library board to order. Let's do roll call.
All right. Chair Marie Hotta.
Here.
Vice Chair Andy Sakaris.
Here.
Maggie Burns.
Here.
Scott Gilbert.
Here.
Gina Oberding.
Here.
Dina Phelps.
Here.
City Council Liaison Chelsea Noonenkamp.
Present.
And Inglewood School Liaison Devon Williams. Welcome. Excused, we have Edie Hughes, Chris Ray, and Amy Wilson. Staff, we have Director Christina Underhill, Library and Cultural Arts Manager Bethany Lafferty, Technical Services Librarian Celine Gardner, Librarian Hannah Kinney, and Librarian Rachel Stein. Did I say those right this time? Steve. All right, thank you.
Just since we for liaison, I thought we would do a quick around the room intro, like super quick because there's a lot to get to. I'll start. My name is Marie Hotta. I'm chair of the library board, and I've been on the library board since 2019.
I'm Scott Gilbert. I'm the old man of the board. I've been on since summer of 2016. Sure. It's me the longest serving member. It's fun. I've seen you at city council meeting.
Andy Sakaris, vice chair. I've been on the board for 3 years, going 4. So I'm up, so about 4 years and vice chair.
I've been on the board since February of 2022.
Yes.
We started the same.
Yeah,
we started the same time.
Just wrote recommendations for several of you, so every years.
I'm Maggie Burns and Dina and I started in February for a couple of years.
Something Camp Equal City Council for District 2. I've been the liaison to the board for 2 years.
Debbie Severa, I'm the Executive Assistant, Parks, Rec, Library and Golf, and the staff liaison to the board.
I'm Christina Underhill. I'm the director for the Parks, Rec, Library and Golf Department.
I'm Gina Oberding. I have been on board almost 1 year. And at 1 year, they let you do the announcements.
I wanted to.
And I'm Beth Lafferty. I'm the Library and Cultural Arts Manager. I've been here since April of last year. Welcome.
Sure, since we're here. I'm Hannah Kinney. I'm a full-time librarian here. Employed as a librarian since March this year. I'm Rachel. I'm the other librarian, full-time librarian. I've been with the library since fall of 2021, but I've also been. I'm Celine Gardner. I'm the technical services librarian. I've been here since November of 2011.
Very nice to meet you all. I'm Devon Williams. I am the secretary of the Inglewood School Board, just recently elected.
All right. Cool. All right, let's move on to approval of the minutes. And since there was no recording, there's more details here. I move to approve the meeting minutes from November 14th.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? All right, those pass. I don't believe we have any public comment. And so we can move on to the reports. Statistical report.
The one thing I wanted to just address was the Inglewood, or the total patrons registered and Inglewood patrons registered. We, this information that's in here is like what it was at the time, at the end of November. But we have continued to do some library account cleanup. And one of the things going forward that will be included is the number of new accounts for the time period. So for the time period of just November, we had a total of 32 new patrons. Oh, no, sorry, that's something else. That's who. I didn't actually include it. She didn't have it to me, but, for the, from November 1st to like now, so it includes part of December, we've added 469 new accounts. But we have had to, we drop off a lot of accounts that have expired. So our current kind of real look at, active card holders is total number of unexpired card holders is 10,000. 5,300 of those are Inglewood residents. And that 10,000, it's 10,650. That includes all different types of card holders, so full access, limited access, and computer use only. So it's definitely, we've a lot lower than the total in the report. So you will kind of see that reflected in the December report next month, but just to kind of brace you for that change, we've been continuing to clean up the patron database. So we can have the most accurate numbers, and of those 10,650, just a little over 9,000 are actually active throughout this year. So there's still some that are not expired, but not currently using any services in person or online. This does include like digital usage too. So we're kind of refining how we're going to present that information more thoroughly. I'll probably leave the December report in this format and look to update the format for January, just because it's the new year.
Hey Beth, in your experience, what would be a percentage of citizens versus card holders? Like, in your mind, I mean, obviously, it's never gonna be 100. You know, I don't know, what do you consider what would be a successful number of patrons that have a library card?
Yes, I don't know. I mean, I feel like if you could get at least 50% of your resident population with cards, like with active library cards especially, that would be pretty tremendous achievement. It can definitely be hard, because you have to factor in a lot of other things, like how transient is the community. Do you have a lot of people who are like moving in and moving out? I feel like Inglewood probably doesn't really fall into that, because I feel like there's, at least as of now, my understanding is there's more like single family homes than apartment rentals, but I don't know that for a fact. Like, I'm not sure what the data is. But for example, when I was in Nevada, the service area I was in for my branch was predominantly surrounded by apartments. So we did have a much greater turnover of kind of active patron use that were in the community, because it was much more transient. People would move in maybe for like 6 months to a year and then leave. And then a whole new set of people would come in. So it was kind of always turning over. So it's kind of hard to say, but I think, yeah, I would think that if you could get at least 50% of your resident population, that would be excellent, which we're pretty close to that. That's in the total, but for active numbers, it's a little bit lower, but, so I think that would be the other thing that I would really want to focus on. It's not just like card holders period, but like active use. So.
Just for context, Inglewood is 52% renter, 48%.
What was that?
Inglewood is 52% renters, 48%.
Oh, really? Okay, that's good to know. Thank you.
Actually, been that way for like 15 years.
Oh, wow, okay. And that reminds me of something else I was gonna say. Oh, in some of the research I've been doing for looking at the reported, like, so all public libraries in Colorado complete an annual report for the state library and the library research service. I know that there's been inaccurate information reported for Inglewood Library, just because I know that there wasn't prior like maintenance of account information. So when you look at sort of the data for other libraries in terms of what their percentage of card holders are residents or not, I take that with a grain of salt because I don't know how accurate their data is, so I can't account for the accuracy of other libraries, but they may be in a similar situation that when they were collecting this data, how up to date were their records, I don't know. So that's another thing to think about when you do look up kind of information, because in the 2022 reports for Englewood, we were at like 105% resident cardholders, which was not correct. So that's kind of how I was like, well, how, and there's many other libraries that were listed at over 100%. And I was like, I don't know how accurate that information really probably is. So.
Okay.
What is a realistic goal that would make you happy? You say like a static 50%, but like, what is like a realistic goal that you'd be like, all right, sleep easy at night? Like, is it 35%? Is it 40?
Like a good initial goal would be about 25% to shoot for. This would be like a 25% increase. Yeah.
When you're saying like, you're like, oh yeah, I'm going to get, like, please show me see this 50% active.
Yeah,
People using the library, like, that would be over the moon.
Yeah.
We need to build our library. But yeah, good, thank you for that.
I don't have anything else that really stands out unless anybody had any questions. Oh, actually, I did want to say one thing about Hoopla. That's the thing I made a note about. Was just because our Hoopla usage has declined overall since we went to resident only access. But I was looking at the data that is provided by Hoopla, and it's encouraging to see that we have new like card holders using Hoopla each month. In October, there was 26 new patrons using Hoopla, and then in November, there was 32 new patrons. So that helps as we're adding more residents to using Hoopla. That will go a long way to increasing our usage.
Hey, on the incident reports, did you speculate that the whopping drop year over year have to do with the guards on duty or I don't know, body
Yeah.
charge or what?
I mean, I think it's a combination of the additional guards, because at this time last year, we did have one allied security for the entire facility. Now we have like 6.
Yeah.
Or 5, I'm not sure. I guess there might be 6, and that's when there's somebody in the court area. But I think for sure that I do think that the single entrance has made a significant impact on reduced incidents, because people must come in one way, they must walk past security. And so that either deters them from coming in or just deters them from, exhibiting inappropriate behavior because they know that there's somebody here. So I think the combination of those two things has really made a significant impact.
It ends up with, I feel like a lot of people end up leaving things outside as well, that it might have been.
Regulation for services good.
No, I feel like,
Will shut down inside with this free space or create your work now.
November last year was a particularly rough one too. That was a really.
I remember we discussed that in December meeting.
Yeah, we had 8 exclusions during November last year. That was really significant.
It feels really low.
Yeah,
Yeah, I was gonna say, was there?
I mean, compared to last month,
Yeah.
for sure.
I would love it to be 0.
Yeah.
Like, let's get to 0 first,
Yeah.
but yeah, any crazy of the 3 that were.
Nothing
egregious.
really like horrible. One was just like outburst. The other one was objection was. Or not the like 24-hour. They should have this already open, haven't they? Oh, the 24-hour was just this guy went really off the wall when he was prompted to return the library badge or the bathroom pass badge. And he was shouting and cursing at staff, went out the north lobby, walked around up there, went around the back. Allied guards tried to retrieve it and he just high grade, terrible. So we're like, you can't come back.
Yeah.
For the rest of the day anyway, but we've never seen him since, we've never seen him before, there, I don't think. Pretty sure that was that guy. Oh, no, that was the other one. Oh. I don't know.
Maybe not memorable is good in the situation.
Right. All right. Well, everyone make sure your library cards are up to date. And, we'll move on to the action plan.
The action plan summary really just kind of wraps up that each of these things were more or less completed. The report for item number 1, develop volunteer program, wrapped up in September. Number 2, implement cultural arts passes and non-traditional item lending. Basically, that's wrapped up for the year. Because we have all the new collections that we were aiming for fully launched in the Kid Keeper. And then we'll look at, reevaluating our expansion for 2024 of any other collection items. The children's team has increased its outreach to the schools with more visits to middle schools and high schools. And I don't know if there's any preschool visits going on right now in the Englewood schools, but I know that there's like non-affiliated preschools she's been going to. Or is Maddox part of?
Maddox is English.
So Maddox is one of them, and then there's the other non-Englewood
Okay.
schools she goes to. And then unfortunately, there has not been any progress made on the student accounts or SORA access. So I just don't know that, I think his name's Paul Winterberg, just hasn't had the opportunity to follow up with Marmot about getting that stuff. So we'll just revisit it and see if it's something we can work on next year. And then the staff development, we had our final staff in service on December 1st. It was originally planned for this Friday, but we bumped it up 2 weeks because as an entire department, Parks, Rec, Library, and Golf had a breakfast event at the golf course on December 1st. So we changed it so that we could all participate in that. And then we'll look at professional development plans for next year. And then the library marketing, we've basically done at least 2 of the things for the library marketing. We've worked with communications to promote some items, and they definitely helped us out with redoing the website. And doing the specific training that Carrie and Corinne did at the beginning of the year, but we haven't really done any plans for a community assessment here, so we can really finish that part, but that'll be something we'll try to look at in the future.
Any questions on that? Are you planning on developing an entirely new action plan for the new year?
I don't know,
Okay.
because we're trying to do something different and more
Okay.
long range.
Okay.
So,
Cool. We'll look forward to seeing it. Okay.
I do have to commend you and your staff. I think you did a great job of really focusing on getting these things done, and it seems to me like it's been really effective, and it will help in the long run keep track of, where we've been, where we're going. So kudos to you and your staff, and especially during some challenging times.
yeah, and I think the thing with the action plan is it appears to just be 1 year at a time and very specific activities, so it's not that I want to do away with it, I want something else in addition to where this would be like another part of,
Like a strategic plan.
Yeah.
yes.
Well,
I do think like Andy specifically asked for smarter goals, and I think you did a really good job narrowing in on that with this one, so like that.
yeah, I just commend you because, previous sort of leadership, we didn't get anything like this. It was just like, we're doing the things. And we're like, what are the things? Like books. Where are the goals with the books? And they're like, more books, right? It really was, it was just sort of very sort of amorphous on sort of attainable, and with limited resources in government, I know how it is to sort of narrow in. And so really kudos to you and to staff on this.
Right. There is no new business, so we will move into old business. With the proposal, but I think you've adjusted.
Yeah, I don't know how we want to proceed with all of with the like kind of other parts and like the things Scott wanted to address.
I
don't
think
know.
you should be.
Okay, so really, this is just, again, a beginning to a conversation of things that are needed to position the library for something longer term, really. So this is just a brief kind of overview of what we want to put forth. So there'll be a more comprehensive kind of presentation in January with following, and then following that, maybe not till later January or February. I didn't catch the date you said to Sarah.
Oh, yeah, a study session, I think the 12th or the third Monday in February.
Okay, so
We'll
we'll
take more
bump back
information.
into February. Because the other thing I want to be clear about is that the library's not in any dire situation to make some kind of significant change right now. It's the intention to create a position for the library to be in to create more long-term lasting changes and implementation of programs and services. And that's really what we're looking to do. So part of what I'm also proposing, the reason why I brought up the suggestion to close a day of the week, and it is my recommendation that Sundays would be the least impactful, because then I can reallocate the staff to other days to create the opportunity for the supervisors team to do the work of strategic planning, completing comprehensive training materials, getting the teams up to speed with the tasks and responsibilities they need to have in their roles. So, you can go to the next one.
Can I ask a quick question? Is there, can we get a copy of this so I don't have to sit and look at a video?
Yeah, we'll post it after this.
It's gonna
We
be,
can send it through email and then post it
That
online
would be
too.
fabulous.
yeah. So this is just to kind of give a progress report on what we've done over the last year. Since this is actually from January through November. The total physical visitors to Englewood Public Library over time has declined. And obviously you see a dramatic drop to 2000 when COVID first hit. And it maintained pretty low in 2021 due to the complications from COVID. There's an increase in library visits in 2022. However, it didn't even come close to the levels pre-COVID of the number of people that were visiting this library. This data has been adjusted to look at the numbers based on actual individual person in and out. So as I had explained before, like the previous reports had like the double number because it counted the in and out for each person. The numbers you see reflected in this graph are all adjusted to be the same type, just a single person at a time, if that makes sense. And so you can see too, even through 11 months of 2023,
The library will close in 5 minutes. Please finish your work and head toward the exit. Thanks for visiting.
we are really not on track to have anything or to be at or above last year's visitors. We've been averaging about, I think it's like 16 to 1,800 people a month. So we're not likely to get much higher than that.
Chelsea. How long was the library closed for this contamination?
What's that?
How long was the library closed this year?
For the contamination, 2 months.
Do you think that could be indicative?
I mean, certainly that will have an impact on it, because we didn't have any people coming in.
That's not 20,000.
Right,
Probably.
and that's the thing, 'cause even if I said we had about 1,800 people each of those months, it doesn't get us to the same number as the year before, not really. And then, the one on the right, that's the total number of visitors, and the percentage of total visitors each day of the week. And this is through December 2nd, I think, because we couldn't go any further yet when I put this together. And I know last month Amy had specifically asked for a comparison of the same 5 hours. But as I really looked into it, you really can't compare it, those chunks of time, because Monday through Friday, we open at 9:30. And we have a significant number of our daily visitors in those first hour and a half. And so to exclude that information from the data didn't seem appropriate. So we really have to look at the overall visitors per day. And so we broke it down to divide it evenly across 7 days would be 14.28% of the total. And consistently, Sundays are below 14%. There may have been a couple days, some specific Sundays where it might have been higher, and that would have been days where we had closures due to holidays. And then the first very cold spell we had a lot more people in the library because they were looking for a place to stay warm. But those are sort of the outliers. And like when we are closed for 2 days for Thanksgiving, all the other days seem to be a little bit higher because we had 2 days with 0. But on average, all the Sundays, and this is also data that started April 16th when we started being open on Sundays again in 2023. And all the days only started that week. So I'm not using like data from before opening on Sundays for the other days of the week. But Sundays are consistently low for the average total visitors every Sunday. Friday and Saturday are also low. And our busiest, our highest attendance are Monday through Thursday, with of the 3 low number attendances, Friday is the highest. I would also point out that all children's programming takes place Monday through Friday.
What are the Saturday hours again?
9:30 to 5.
There.
Yes, Friday and Saturday hours are the same. So.
Have we done traditionally in the past, and I know it's all sort of shifted with COVID, and looking at the book, maybe that was pre-COVID. Did we do weekend programming ever in the library?
They're really special programs, right?
Okay, yeah.
I know that anecdotally, I believe that Kimberly has mentioned that when she first started here, she tried doing some programming on Sunday for children and families, and the attendance wasn't there.
Yeah,
For that.
Programming ever.
And then what they've been trying to do on Saturdays is just do an open play in the story time room where they put out toys and stuff like that. And then it's available from 9:30 till 4:30. So it's nothing structured. I do know she counts that as a program though. She counts the total number of people that attend each Saturday for the whole day. The only children's program that is offered on the weekend throughout the year is a special event, and it's the Jamboree, which draws a big crowd. And then there are occasional adult programs on Saturdays. They're not necessarily well attended. Sometimes they're not attended at all. So Saturdays are hit and miss for adult programming as well. One of the things that does
Please exit the building. We will reopen tomorrow at 9:30 a.m. Thank you.
The thing that does happen on Saturdays are the large city events. And so we do try to be present at each of those large events, such as Celebrate Inglewood, Lafferty, the trunk or treat. We're not actually at the fall markets, but there's been some things I've been thinking about doing next year when the fall markets take place. So not necessarily being out there, but offering something in the library on those same days. If the market's drawing people, then I can say, hey, this is in the library. So that's something that I thought about for that. So, additional usage to just demonstrate kind of the general decline. On the left-hand side is checkouts. The orange line is physical checkouts. And the other line that I can't quite tell what color it is.
Great.
Yeah, that's digital checkouts. So that's like using Google and Livy and Canopy. So the digital stuff has actually maintained fairly steady since pre-COVID, and during COVID, it didn't really increase tremendously. Physical checkouts has dropped dramatically, obviously because of COVID, because people couldn't come in to check out materials. And it has rebounded a little bit and then plateaued, and again is kind of dropping. Even during the contamination closure, we did pretty quickly get set up with curbside. We made, individual phone calls to patrons to tell them to come and pick up their stuff, and we're promoting that we were offering the curbside pickup during that closure time.
Kimberly was checking out books.
Yeah,
During
so for the,
children's
yeah,
programs.
the children's programs were still taking place upstairs. For families that had things on hold, she always brought everything upstairs to get checked out. So, while I'm sure it did impact our overall numbers, even for last year, there's not, we're not even close to the level of physical materials checked out prior to COVID. And I do think that correlates with the low number of people physically coming in. And then the one on the right-hand side is just utilization of other resources. So that's like the questions staff get asked and our computer usage. So it's sort of the same kind of similar thing where we were at a pretty decent level of annual questions and then it tanks for COVID. There's a bit of rebound for the computer use, which is the green one. Because I do think during COVID, when the library was making efforts to be open, they were a lot focusing on providing availability and access to like the internet computers. But again, it kind of like peaks and drops off. So the thing that a lot of this information tells me in terms of the usage is that we haven't had the opportunity to focus any energy on bringing people back in and, knowing what it is that they're looking for, what they want out of the library, and, reminding the community through promotion what the library has to offer. And we haven't had the opportunity to do that. And what I'd like to do going forward is to have the time and space to create a 3 to possibly 5 years library strategic plan. And this would be something that is involves, internal and external stakeholders. Would consider what the position of the library is within the greater city structure and the strategic plan of the city. And then within a strategic plan, we'd be able to embed long-term goals and objectives. So like some of the things we see in the action plan would be organized in a longer-term strategy, and then with kind of in the format of the action plan, things that we would do kind of on a year-by-year basis. And so we would still kind of have an action plan to guide us annually, but we'd have a larger plan to guide us over multiple years. And that we would use this to increase our library visits, but in person and probably even electronically, because I really would like to give some significant time to promoting our other online resources, not just our ebooks, audio, and streaming movies, because we have a ton of other online resources that get very little love and little usage, but nobody knows about them because we have not had an opportunity to promote their use or provide instruction on their use. The library is in desperate need of lasting training and operational manuals so that we have staff that are properly trained for how just the day-to-day operations should be played out each day. Reduce our employee turnover. I did do some analysis of our turnover over the last 2 years. Our overall employee turnover for 2022 was 76.9%. And for 2023, our overall turnover was 46.8%. Part-time staff only in 2022, the turnover was 51.8%. And in 2023, the part-time turnover has been 43.5%. I haven't been able to find any comparative data specifically for libraries. But in general, most employers think, it's been reported in kind of like human resources articles that most employers aim for about a 10% employee turnover, with exceptions being, food service and hospitality. So we have a really significant issue with our employee turnover. And that would, I do believe that it's not a one-stop or like a one result thing. Like we don't just ask for one thing and it's solved. This is a over time incremental changes that we have to make to improve our staffing structure. And then we would be developing more specific focus for our library teams. And that's like children's team, the adult services team, our patron experience slash circulation team, and the technical services team. Then going forward, we would implement that plan and have these other goals, like including the number. I wrote double resident card holders, but I do know that realistically, I think about a 25 to maybe 30% increase would be the initial place to start. Expand the collection of non-traditional items, establish partnerships with community agencies, and like that initial year would be trying to add 2 full-time librarian positions. So doing additional staff over time, instead of just, because like last year we were definitely in a dire situation where we were desperate for more people. And we're managing right now, but that's all we're doing is we're just managing, we're just keeping our head above water. But we don't really have the ability to create long-term plans that are going to be impactful and beneficial for the community. We just don't have an opportunity to do that.
And just to clarify, that's adding 2 positions to what's existing.
Correct.
And I'll add the
Perfect.
strategic plan may change that
Yeah.
as well. That's just right now.
Right,
That would be the
right,
goal,
of
but
course.
it could be very different. It's
Yeah,
strategic.
that's
planning.
just kind of like the initial thing that
Yeah.
I'm thinking of.
Okay.
So, two quick questions.
Uh-huh.
One, are you planning on bringing someone external in to
Yes.
do
So
that?
yeah, you can go to the next.
Um,
Okay. That.
But in the usage, are surrounding libraries seeing the same decrease, increase? Where do we sort of fit in the scale?
So I don't have all the same exact data for other libraries, but I was able to, from the Library Research Service, look at some other libraries, kind of like the pure kind of municipal libraries in a comparable population size. And I think in terms of like overall visitors, that's definitely kind of a trend for other libraries. As I looked at 2019 to 2022, there's obviously no data for 2023 available yet. And other libraries definitely showed that kind of significant decrease in I actually didn't even do 2020. I'm sorry. I just went from 2019 to 2021.
Yeah.
Because I think for most people, like 2020 was.
We're not thinking about
disaster.
money ever again.
So for like the change from 2019 to 2021, there's definitely a significant decrease for a lot of places. And then they rebound in 2022. A lot of them are, 25 to 50% increases. So I think, and this is just looking at total
Sure.
visits. I can also say that their circulations did kind of also rebound, because they have circulation per capita in here, so it's like a rate per person in their population service area. So like, for example, so the 2 like really closest kind of comparisons for us are the Bemis Library in Littleton and the Lafayette Public Library. They both were saw declines in their per capita circulation, but have rebounded back to their 2019 levels. Maybe not 100%, but really close, but probably a good 75 to 80% back to there. Where ours is the same. Or has just like, it went down and then it's like just barely back up. So I think in general, it's kind of the same, but some of their numbers are higher percentage wise. I didn't calculate percentages, but they are showing that same general, like a dive and then a rebound. It's not 100% back, but it's pretty close
Thank you.
for some of the communities. So yeah, so like looking ahead, like the next steps to position the library to be able to do some of these things. So, and it's not just doing a strategic plan, it's, you know, bolstering some of our day-to-day activities, our training, reducing our turnover. What I'm seeing is the need to reduce our library service hours from our total service week down. And I really think that that has to come from the elimination of a single day so that the staff that are scheduled on that day can be reallocated to other days of the week to create depth of staffing and coverage and allow the ability for the supervisor team to step back and do, you know, long-term work on strategic planning and creating materials and things for the existing staff. And my recommendation is Sunday because it is the least reduction in total hours. And I do see it as the least impactful to the community because we don't offer anything additional than open doors on Sundays right now. And so, yeah, we reallocate staffing to give the supervisory team the opportunity to participate in strategic planning as well as other tasks, and that we would work with the city of Englewood and the city leadership to engage in a consultant that would lead a strategic planning campaign and, you know, compile final reports and stuff like that, and help with the creation of like reporting documents and stuff like that, and guide the conversations, help with community assessments, focus groups, whatever, you know, the things that we need to do for that.
Yeah, Beth, that was the one thing I didn't see on the 20, well, first of all, this is great. Because everything I was thinking about, then you had it on the list. It was awesome. I love the community needs assessment because I think that does give you. You can come from ground zero and you can know what people want, and then you can adjust your stuff, right? So it is hard, you're right, it's hard to just do one thing at a time. So looking long term, it's like, what does citizens of Englewood and others want from the library? So I love that would be probably step number one. I think that's critical. And then that can help lead whatever goals you might want to do for 2025. So, you know, putting this stuff on paper is great, but then you have to listen to it. So I think you've done a great job at being really thoughtful about what does this actually look for and how can this library be a real contributor to the city. So I think it's great.
Additionally, I've talked to a couple of the staff members who have had, I just want to put this out there, they had severe mental health concerns related to everything that's been going on here, and not having a break in the week where they can fully shut down and like stop worrying about their staff has been really taxing. And I think that when you look at it with a 5-hour day on Sunday, you're pulling people here for 5 hours, and it's really like that 5-hour block, you're trying to schedule everything, it really does interfere, I know, with the regular work day. But from my perspective, like the health of the library and the health of the staff is very, very important.
This is the last slide. Could we go back to the one that had the days broken down? It might have been like the second slide. Also, could I ask a question? If we could get things like this in advance, it would be super helpful for me. I'm not good at like trying to digest everything on the fly. If we could get like the way the council gets agenda packets in advance, that would be super helpful. And I left my glasses in the car because I didn't realize I was going to be looking at this. But so the percentage. What percentage of visitors are in on Sunday?
7.
That's it, that's 7.
7. So that's right in line with the percent of hours that it's open. That means the usage per hour is the same as the rest of the week, because 5 hours out of 70 is 7.1%.
It's, I mean, it's on, Sundays are only half of a Monday, Tuesday, or Wednesday, or Thursday.
I understand that, but I mean, on a per hour basis, it works out to be, I mean, if 7% of visitors are in on Sunday, that would make sense with 7% of the hours that the library is open are on Sunday.
I'm not sure I'm following.
No,
Oh.
7%.
Okay, so
It's open
it's open,
It's open 5 hours on Sunday, 10 hours on Monday.
right,
10
10 is 40, right? And then you have 15 total for Saturday and Sunday, right? So that's what, 55, oh, it's 60, oh, actually. So I was at 70, so actually Sunday would be more like, maybe like not 9% of open hours. Sorry, I was trying to do math, and is why it would be helpful. So how many hours is it open per week?
60.
60, okay, hold on a second. This would have been helpful again. Okay, so we're 1.6. So in other words, Sundays are about 8% of the hours that the library is open, right? That would be correct.
Okay.
Yeah, so 7% usage doesn't seem terribly far off. I mean, it seems like people are using it at about the same rate per hour that they're using it the rest of the week.
I don't agree with that, because I would say just double it. If Monday is 10 hours, Sunday is 5, you double 7%, you get 14, but you still have over 16% of people on Monday. So no, it's
Right.
not used as much as a Monday.
No, it's
Tuesday,
little,
Wednesday, or Thursday.
it's little, yeah.
Well, it seems to me like the broader discussion is around the ability for the library staff to offer more programs, do some strategic planning, not stress them out, focus on their own health and well-being, and not just usage of the library, right? So to me, it sounds like it's and. We have to consider that and what else is being asked of us, which is, to me, the consideration for the library staff to be able to really provide some more meaningful programs or strategic work or whatever. So I think we have to look at it not just as numbers. That's,
That's the meaningful part.
Right.
It's like that's meaningful usage of
yeah,
everyone's time. It's like
yeah,
the city's resources, the staff's resources.
yeah.
Well, you know, I was have balance. Well, I mean, it's not like people working 7-day weeks. I worked every weekend for 12.5 years straight because I had good weekends off.
I disagree with that. I think staff do work. I work 7 days a week because we're constantly worried and checking emails and following up, and there's PITS reports coming in and issues. So there has been many weeks of 7 days a week.
Mhm.
And the closure would not be requested until the strategic plan is ready to launch. So we still have to do an RFP. So January most likely be open regular. February most likely will open regular, probably end of February, early March is when we look to start the strategic planning process. And at that point, the decision would be made what day of the week would be most valuable to close so we can repurpose those hours. So no decision tonight has to be made whatsoever. This is just data
And
presentation.
will this go to council?
Yeah, we'll be doing a study session in February so they can understand where we're at and the next steps with the strategic plan.
You know, I would say, I mean, when you say it's the least impactful, if Sunday is like the day you come because of your work hours, it's quite impactful.
Well, and we're not opposed to
There's
closing
another-
any other day during the week. I mean,
Sunday.
yeah, during Monday through Friday, there's a lot that happens here that it could hurt the library to close during those days, but Saturday and Sunday are up for grabs. If you're more comfortable with Saturday being closed, that can be the day we close.
Yeah.
I think we need the data to make the decision, and I think that's gonna come from the strategic plan, like. I appreciate the vision of this is what we'll do with all this extra time, but really what is the ROI on that? And I'm not saying that as by any stretch, like. I want you to have the time off the plan, because I am doing 2 jobs right now, I get it, like, I get it. But I want to hear from the community what they want.
Well, this would be a temporary thing, just so we can do the strategic plan, because in the status we're in today, there's no way the staff can complete or
Yeah,
have
we
the time
can't
to do it.
accomplish
Yeah.
the goals that we would like to accomplish in the long range planning that is really needed for this library to be what it can be. And, you know, I would like to bring up Scott's email where he pointed out several, former council meetings with the video clips and all this stuff. In the January 3rd meeting, one thing that Chelsea said was that she's committed to keeping the library open for 7 days a week, but not only providing minimum services, but really excellent services. We are providing minimum services at the rate we're at, and that's what we will continue to do if we are not provided the time and space to create long-term lasting plans and changes for this library.
You know what I would like to discuss, what I've brought up here is, if you go back and look at the presentation that we gave to council, we just flat out said, if you give us this money, you get 7 day service. You can't look at the meeting and look at the agenda packet that night and see anything else. We made that deal. And the
When was
city,
that, Scott?
January 3rd, 2023.
Oh,
I sent links,
So it was my understanding that this was something that we were asking for to get started, to improve the situation in the library, improve the staffing, to move it forward.
Mhm.
It was not my understanding that this was a fixed deal, that it was something that was unchangeable at any point in the future. I was of the understanding, and that the council members agreed, this is the beginning of an ongoing conversation to address the needs of the public library, to improve the performance of the public library, not something that is fixed in time and can never be changed. I have been assessing our performance throughout the year with the staff that we have, and we can manage. We can stay open for 7 days a week. We can't really accomplish much more. I would also like to point out that this deal did not deliver $20,000 as it was originally outlined. We did not get that $20,000 for program and collection expansion. That was omitted. That was not approved. So it's not a deal like it was presented. So I don't know that it's fair to call it something like that, other than this was just a starting point of trying to create some improvement in public library and how it serves its community.
And I'm clear that was communicated to council as a cost savings that staff found. I actually brought that up when we did the budget supplemental, and that this wasn't the full amount. Staff told me that this was the amount that you did. So just so you know, and we approved what was asked for by staff. So if there was a disagreement, there was staff on what was out there, but we approved the full amount that was on the supplemental.
But during that meeting, they also, I recall city council saying, let's start here. Like, I think it was Joe Anderson, let's start here.
Well,
And something
That there would be additional ask in the next budget cycle.
yeah,
Right, yeah, that it would be part of the budget planning cycle, not any additional special asks. I can't really spend a lot of time creating proposals and providing data and other information for why I need this extra step. Nobody got new staff for 2024. It only seems like we did because we converted our existing staff to full-time. But I need to really work hard to get 2 full-time staff added to this library. And when I have to spend 25% of my time being on the library floor, I don't have a lot of time to do that. And I don't think that that's what the city case need to do, is to be on the library floor.
you know what I recall, Joe, and I recently watched the videos again, but I recall Joe saying was it was a starting point to go with a 2nd tier plan and to come back and ask for more money if that was what we were. And I would suggest maybe that would be an approach to take.
well, he suggested that we come back with a new plan for the 2024 budget cycle, which I'm not sure we did in the way that they were thinking we would do after a year of evaluating what this budget supplemental did. I watched the meeting this morning, and the majority of council at the time said they were totally on board with 3 as a starting point. We mentioned that already, with the hopes of getting to 2. If we could show from this past year's data that it's needed. And it sounds like we're now in a place a year later where it is totally needed, but we didn't make the ask in the budget cycle that we should have.
I don't know where the,
We did, but it was reduced to taking 4 part-time
okay,
and converting it to full-time.
Yeah.
We would have liked 2 full-time in
Okay.
addition.
got it. A lot, I noticed today too, when I was watching the video, the approval of Plan 3 at the time was not contingent on 7-day-a-week service, but almost every single council member emphasized the 7-day-a-week service. Which was interesting to me. Last meeting, I was very on board with closing on Sundays if we needed to, and it's still not off the table, but I'm trying to think of like more like what programs do we offer programs on Friday night?
Teen programs during the summer and then once a month during the year. And I'll also clarify that none of these visitor numbers include numbers of people who came in for after hours events, because those are reflected in program attendance. Because I'm focusing on visitors to the libraries during our open hours. So it doesn't include any of that stuff. So we do after hours programs for teens primarily. The adult services team does do occasional after hours programs for adults, but generally on Saturday.
But they can't circulate or do any, like regular, like library
Right.
functions during, right?
Right, that's correct.
It's a,
I have one quick question for our council member. How do the supplementals work in people with?
We do them on a quarterly basis. They're always contingent on if we have funding in the reserve fund or the unassigned fund balance, excuse me. It's a balance, right? You have some council members who are very amenable to that and some who are very not so, because we do obviously want to work things into the budget cycle. And I think that there's a strategic and a cultural question around if we are approving too much in a supplemental, does that set some sort of precedent, for working that kind of outside the system when every single department of the city would like more. Yes, they work on a quarterly basis.
And I just want to say that's one of the things that my goal is to do things within the appropriate budget cycle and not have to ask for a supplemental, which we did do in January because we were in a dire situation. And what I have observed through the course of this year with the additional staff that we were provided through the supplemental was that we still continue to have really high turnover because adding, 4 part-timers to the existing 14 we already had or something like that didn't really solve our problems because the high turnover is among the part-time staff. It takes up easily 180 to 200 hours per hire for the supervisors to spend on recruitment. And that includes reviewing applicants, conducting interviews, and then 160 hours of training of a part-time employee before they're really up to speed. So that's a huge time suck for the supervisor team to continually be doing 3, sometimes 4 times a year with groups of people. And I really want to focus on utilizing the standing process for making incremental increases in staffing and projects and service planning and all of that kind of stuff. The other thing I've seen over the year is that with the staff that we have, we can kind of barely cover the 7-day week, but what happens when people are out sick or they have planned vacation, or as we are gearing up for next year, a maternity leave. When we have those empty spots and then the supervisory team is the one that fills in the gaps, it also takes away our opportunity to do anything significant that's long-term and lasting. And so, again, we just get back to, we're just treading water, we're keeping our head above, and that's about all we can accomplish. And what I'm seeing, while it helped us tremendously to have this additional staff, it's just helped us to get to a status quo that we can maintain, but provides no opportunity for growth.
Sorry, just, have you guys ever considered contract support or temporary support? Is that even part of the culture?
We have talked about
I'm
that.
just curious. I don't even know what the competition is.
The problem is that working in a public library is not like being a cashier at a grocery store. It's not a very straightforward thing. It is very nuanced. It's not a common set of, technology that people have to utilize. We really have to teach the incoming people how to utilize things, how to respond, how to research questions, and how to, educate people about the resources available in the library. The problem, like I just said about the number of hours it takes to train, we did discuss the concept of having, seasonal workers come through, but the thing is, if a season is 3 months, we've spent 2 months on training, and then they work for a month, and then we have to start all over again. It's just not a viable structure to look at.
And every library is different. So that's the other challenge. You might hire librarians, accredited librarians with master's degrees, but this library is different than the one maybe they normally work at. And so, yeah, we talked about that, but the gut check was kind of like, this could be really weird if it was like just scheduled on Sundays, is a whole outside crew that comes in. It's like, it's like inviting strangers into your home kind of thing. And so while it's on the table still, it's kind of not the best option that we think, because I think just strategically, it could cause more problems than good.
And the other thing is that contractors are expensive.
Yeah.
That's another thing I'm also finding out with the school board and some of our finances there, so. One thing I did want to add is a city employee in another municipality, the part-time stuff is not just the library. I had a Google, like, does it happen in Denver? Like our agency is 100% turnover with part-timers. Parks and Rec in Denver is like 78%. So like, it's not an uncommon thing. I didn't want to be like, with the culture, like, no, it is a
I think
municipal wide.
for libraries, though. I do think it's
Part-time in libraries.
Denver's is almost 65%.
in the library.
I talked to library, yeah, and Aurora, it's up there too, so, but it's one of those things of, I didn't want this to be a culture conversation, because it's indicative of the government. And so, I just wanted to throw that out there, because there was.
I think that's fair to say. The other thing I would like to, explain too, is that in this library, the backbone of our staffing schedule are the part-timers.
No, absolutely.
And the full-timers fill in the gaps. I truly believe it should be the reverse. We should have a more robust full-time staff that makes up the bulk of our scheduling and frontline work, with part-time staff that helps bridge the gaps. That's what because I think that's the intention of part-time employees, is to bridge the gap, not carry the entire burden. And that was the case even when I started here. It was all part-time, and then the supervisors. And we were definitely doing a disservice to the library by not allowing our professionally trained librarians to be on the desk to provide professional library service. We're trying to impart that professional knowledge on part-timers, because they are the backbone of the library. And we really need to change that around, because that's not kind of the way that libraries really work, in terms of like, we're a small library. So for us to say we have these teams, since I know like at Arapahoe libraries, they have a lot of paraprofessionals working the floor, and they have these professional teams doing very specific things across their entire district. But we're just a small community library, and we should be able to put those professionals at the forefront of our services. And we somehow brought them to the back and said, you're now the supervisors, and you have to do all this planning, while we're putting the part-timers bearing the burden of our services 100% of the time. And there has to be a better balance with that. And I really think we have it backwards in terms of our staffing with part-time versus full-time. I think currently, and actually, like, we have a couple of vacancies right now. So what we will get to in January is 16 part-time employees to 11 full-time employees. And I really think it needs to be going on.
Well, because Inglewood is such a small community, really, I think that's even more reason why the library needs to be a critical resource for people. In partnership with our schools and other resources where people get information. But to me, that's the crux of it. The library has the potential to be very valuable resource, but there's a lot of potential here to be a real critical resource for a small community of 33,000 people or whatever we are.
And that's the reality of libraries today, is it's not just a place to come get books. Clearly, because we saw from that graph that we don't have, our physical books are not being checked out at the rate that they once were. We have people coming here for different needs and we're not able, I don't know how adequately we're meeting those needs, or if we even know what those needs are, because we do not have the opportunity to assess those needs.
I wanted to ask how you feel prepared on days where, it is cold weather and you're not expecting the, how can you prepare for those days when it's cold weather and you don't necessarily have the forefront to like, you know, or the ability to fully staff, and then you're a day.
We can't prepare. We have no additional resources to the library for being a warming shelter. We're just expected to provide that. And if the cold weather brings in twice as many people as we're used to, and we have the bare minimum number of staff, we'll just knock on wood and cross your fingers. That's the plan. That's what we do. That's how we prepare. Saturday last week, we had the bare minimum of staff in here. And wasn't sure how the day was gonna go. I think mostly it was fine. However, on Sunday, I had 8 people for a 5-hour day and 5 for a 7.5-hour day. Because our staffing ends up getting unbalanced when people want to take time off. And I'm not gonna deny the staff the time off that they are entitled to.
Mhm.
But then I end up having a day where nothing is happening in here and I've tied up 8 staff members.
I also thought the articles you sent, the discussion of social workers in the library was something that was really, really interesting. And the staff member I spoke to about mental health issues also said that she thought that social workers would be really impactful, and especially on a day where there's, you know, an influx of people who are using this as.
So I'm in talk
Yeah, and that's what.
with
Christina's
contracts.
Working on something along.
to
that
bring in
avenue.
social
It's not
workers.
something that we can, like, I can't hire a social
Okay.
worker, I don't know anything about that.
Yeah.
We're
But
partnering with
looking
an
at
outside
that
agency.
community partnership
Wonderful.
now, and
Well-
Christina's leading that.
And that looked like it was part of the 2025 plan, which is how do we have some strategic
Right.
partnerships within England?
Yeah.
You know, you've got All Health Network that provides a variety of resources or co-responder programs or whatever.
Yep.
That is a partnership with law enforcement and healthcare.
But would that be able to impact our, like, emergency media closure thing if we have like regular community partners who?
Potentially.
us?
Yeah, we're working through if it's 1 social worker or 2 or 1.5, how does that look and what is the cost of?
Highly unlikely, though, I'm sorry to play devil's advocate, that these, you know, a partnership can provide somebody 7 days.
Right, of course. Yeah, of course.
We'll have more information probably in January for
Okay.
what that should.
I'm glad to hear that that's
Yeah.
something. Well,
So there'll be, a more kind of expansive, you know, presentation for this, I guess, next month. And, you know, I have a limited amount of time to prepare this information, to collect the data, to organize it, to make it presentable. Because I have other duties that I have to do, and this takes a lot of time. Sure.
thank you for all your work. Beth.
Yeah, no, it would just be helpful to see in advance, so I'm not trying to catch it all online, so thanks.
Thank you, everyone, for the interest of time. I think we should move along. Board members' choice. Chelsea, is there anything that you get to continue as our?
I do, for good or for ill. No, all for good. I'm so passionate about this work and what you guys will do, and I've really enjoyed my 2 years in the board. I feel also excited about today. One update that I think is timely, obviously, you all know, like, new council, and every time that we seat a new council every 2 years, we have a retreat at the beginning of the year to determine what are the strategic focuses of that council, what are the things that are important to them, for the new members, how do they integrate and change the mix? Every council is different. And so I would just say, as you are considering some of these things and you're engaging both with, you know, private citizens, this will be something that this council will need to decide on together, and we need to consider the large strategic plan for the entire city. What are the things that are important to us? Parks, Rec, Library, and Golf falls under our community well-being plank of our strategic plan as a city. And so, feel free to engage with your city council members on issues like these as we consider what our focuses for city for the next 2 years for this council to work on. So that's coming up January 27th.
Yeah.
That is our Saturday workshop for the strategic plan. So that's happening. And I think that's it for this board. Thank you all for your service.
Anything that you want to share from the school board?
Nothing to share thus far as I'm a new member, so I'm still in the learning process. Look forward to serving with you guys on this board for the next couple of years.
Any members have anything they'd like to say?
Happy holidays.
Happy holidays. All right, just a reminder that we are changing our meetings in January to the third Thursday at 6.
Yes.
One thing we did not look at was how that interacted. So there are some interesting. Might just be, that's expected, but like the school calendar has a lot of breaks on the third Thursday of the month. All right.
Virtual dialing in is an option.
Yeah.
Cool. Thanks, everybody.
All right, it is 8:13, we'll adjourn.
Oh, sorry. Was it too late?
Nope.
No,
Is there an opening on this board?
no. Oh,
There's
I
not.
think there were 5.
No, everyone is reapplying.
Board and commission update, our openings in general are open to the 28th. So if you've had a good time serving your city in this capacity, we would highly recommend you to recruit your friend to apply for board and commission openings
Yeah.
for the 28th of December. Sorry.
You actually reminded me of the Chelsea, so we're actually looking for a new board member. Full board as we've had Steve Bar that resigned. Lafferty, sorry. But we are looking for a new board member, so we're going to be having a special meeting on the 19th. Which we'll be discussing that, the requirements of that.
All right, for real adjournment at 8:14.
There you go.